Good afternoon.
I'm going to call to order the meeting of the Environment Committee. Today is Tuesday, July 24th, 2018. And the first item on the agenda is an approval of the very short agenda we have.
So moved.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion prevails. The second item is the approval of the minutes. Any changes or corrections to the minutes?
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been approved. We have two business items today, and the first one is 2018-199, which is a same week item. And Mr. Smith is going to talk us through the adoption of the MCES water rates and charges. Welcome on this gorgeous day. It is a gorgeous day out there.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Madam Chair and committee members for the opportunity to come speak today, particularly on this gorgeous day. It is very important that we're here today because tomorrow is the day that we need to get these rates approved. So I appreciate you coming in for a less than full agenda. And I promise I won't compensate
Been here for
by
less.
a longer time. Although if anyone wants to hear about GASB 73, it's really awesome.
Well, you can't talk as long as Jason used to talk anyway.
So, Madam Chair and committee members, I am Ned Smith. I'm the Director of Finance and Revenue for MCS, and I'm here today to talk about business item 2018-199, which is the adoption of the wastewater rates and charges. The proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council adopt the wastewater rates and charges outlined on page 1 of the business item to be effective January 1 of 2019. And again, this is going to the broader council tomorrow afternoon, assuming approval today. So to walk through, a lot of this is going to be repeat of what you saw back in May when we did the budget preview, but I wanted to put it all in here to make sure that the council had, the full council, had access to the same information. So we will walk through the overall rate setting schedule, the customer workshops and open houses. That's really what I would focus on with the Environment Committee today, because that's the part that's new to you. The 2019 executive summary, the 2019 proposed sources and uses, our debt service, brief overview of SAC and some of the changes that we're looking at in SAC, our industrial rates, and then our questions. So just as a reminder, the overall rate setting schedule, we did our industrial workshops back in March and April. Those were hugely successful. Across those three, we had over, I think, 140 people come to those meetings. Great dialogue with our industrial customers. And it was also very clever to break out liquid waste haulers from industrial waste haulers because they have completely different agendas and concerns. So it was great to set up a separate one for liquid waste haulers to speak to them directly. And May 8th is when I came before you with the preliminary direction for our budgets, including the preliminary rates and the preliminary budget. And then we went out and shared those with our customers at our municipal customer forums or open houses back in May and June. We tried to do one on the east side and one on the west side, and we'll walk through those results. And then tomorrow is today is Environment Committee review of customer input and rate adoption. Then tomorrow is when the council adopts it. And then tomorrow with the council and today really is just for the rates. And then the bigger on August 22nd is when we actually put the overall budget up for approval by the council, at least to go for the 2-month review session. But obviously our budget and our rates are very closely tied. So I do want to talk about the customer workshops and open houses. We mixed up the forum a little bit more even this year, trying to make it more interactive. The biggest feature is we leveraged the innovations from our industrial waste partners in that we set up tables, stations, 12 stations that were kind of subject matter expert stations, so that customers could walk around and talk to subject matter experts about specific areas of concern. So we had a table for their actual city wastewater charges that were proposed so they could see what their calculations were. We had a table for SAC. We had a table for inflow and infiltration. We had a table for industrial waste. We had one for the capital program. We had one on our interceptors. We had one on environmental quality and water supply and water monitoring. And I'm sure I've left one or two out, but and very grateful to the work of the staff for being there. One of the things that we did, as you can see in the picture, they have these posters behind them. Those posters were meant to be kind of 1 or 2 page summaries of that department or of that activity, which we then shrunk to an 8.5 by 11 so that they could keep it in their folder and go home and use that as a tool with their electeds to share out what the specific programs were. These are also all available on the website, and we got some great feedback. I'll share with that in a minute. And then, so that was the open house. That was based on the preliminary municipal wastewater charges that we sent mid-May to each of our 109 customer communities. So that is where we, for each one of those 109 communities, said this is what your charge is going to be in 2019. And for the second year, we also included all of our flow calculations that went into that. So how do we measure flow in your community in order to figure out what your allocation will be for 2019? And at those 2 forums, we had 40 attendees from 33 different communities. And that was both, it was primarily city staff, so public works directors, building officials, and finance directors, but we also did have a couple of electeds join us as well, council members and mayors. The feedback that we got from, so we, after, in addition to just listening to what folks say, we also would send out an electronic survey afterwards where they could vote, from 1 to 7 being agree or disagree, and also provide specific comments. So the materials and the information was very well received. The fact sheets, so the fact sheets were the 2 pagers that each department made, were very helpful. It was informative, helpful, good use of time, and our favorite one is we'll try to attend MCS informational meetings in the future. So we are looking forward to growing those and getting more and more folks to come participate. But overall, it was a great forum, and I also want to thank our council members who came. And it's been a while, but I believe Councilmember McCarthy was there, Councilmember Rodriguez, Councilmember Chavez, and Wendy. Councilmember Wolf did not come to those.
I was busy doing public hearings about the garbage facility wastewater
SKB,
use thing.
which we are incredibly grateful for. So thank you for that. So we're also pleased to have some council members there. So diving into what you've seen. So typically at this time, because we've finished the budget in May, things might happen between May and now that would change our budget. That could either change our rates or change our budget. So primarily what I want to do today is walk through what you've already seen, and then if there's any changes to highlight, we'll walk through those as well. There were minimal changes though. So your source and rates, we're still looking at a regional wastewater increase of 3.5%. Do remember that every city, their results will be higher or lower based on their flow as a percent of the total regional flow. So just as a brief reminder, we set the budget for 2019 and we set the MWC for 2019, and then we allocate that out to the cities based on their percent of flow from 2017. So we use 2017 actuals. So if a city was 20% of 2017 flow across the region, then they will pay 20% of the 2019 budget. And we like this system because it gives them certainty. So we send the same bill every month for 12 months, whether it rains or not. So they like that from a budgeting perspective. We like it because it's consistent revenue for us, which makes for good predictability in our operations, but it also helps our bond rating to have reliable revenue sources. The sewer availability charge, very excited that we are going to keep that flat again, $2,485 per SAC unit. That's the same since January 1 of 2014. I'd love to say it's all because of our brilliant fiscal policies, but it's mostly due to the outstanding growth and development that we're seeing in the Twin Cities as development continues to happen. Our industrial strength charge is going to go up 3.4%, and our industrial permit fee 3.5%. So pretty much in line with the broader 3.5% increase. Our proposed uses is 6% increase over 2018. However, if you back out pass-through grants, it's a 4.7% increase. So a modest, keeping our expenses in check. Changes from the May 8th information meeting. The biggest is the 2018 budget increased by $4.7 million. That was due to the approved carry forward items. carry forward. You may remember are items that we budgeted for in 2017, got started, but didn't finish in time to get an invoice. And so things that are started and underway but didn't finish in the year, we carry those forward. And then in 2019, we did increase our expense and revenue budget by $5 million, and that was for the pass-through of inflow and infiltration grants. We're very excited about that addition. That happened in mid to late May, based on the governor signing it. So we are excited that we do have another $5 million. This is for public inflow and infiltration. So we are going to add that to the existing 3.379 million that we have from 2016. And we did bring that before the committee about a month ago to share the changes and how we're going to implement that. And then our interdivisional charges came down 300,000. Interdivisional charges are things like centralized services, HR, legal, some of our finance services that are allocated out to us. So those we're grateful to our RA partners for keeping those expenses in check, and a little bit lower than we estimated. This chart looks very much the same. It's up by 5 million, but that's hard to see in a pie chart. But again, you're looking at 75% of our revenue comes from our municipal wastewater charges. That number actually hasn't changed. That's still 227.4 million. And again, that's because our changes are a pass-through grant. So those don't change our MWCs. Sewer availability charge also did not change for 2019. Industrial waste, again, the difference is in other, where you'll see the I&I grants. Proposed uses by category also have not changed much, except for the increase in the other by 5 million. And this chart looks very similar to last year. So we're not seeing a huge change in how our expenses, again, primarily driven by debt service at 46%. Salaries and benefits is our second largest at 22%. And then the rest is pretty evenly distributed. In terms of our outstanding debt, this also has not changed. The most important thing to know is we're going to actually peak at 1.3 billion in 2018. That'll come down a little bit in 2019, and then 2020 will continue to decline as we continue to manage our debt. The debt bubble is still there. Always helps to bring that out. You can see for the next 4 to 5 years, we have a little bump in our debt service. 2018, our debt service went up 2019 debt service went up 8 million over the prior year. 2020 will be additional 8 million. 2021 is going to go up by 9.5 million, and 2022 is 10.5 million. So some big changes, increases coming up in our debt service, but those should level off and match inflation going forward. This chart is unfortunate because we kept promising that this would be updated by now. It isn't. These are based on, the final numbers are from NACWA, the National Association of Clean Water Agencies, does a survey across all of their members every 3 years. I'm sorry, they do a survey every 3 years. Last one was in 2017. We were hoping to have final results by now, but we don't. What I do know is your 25 Pier City average retail average rate at 404. Preliminary numbers from NACWA have said that number has jumped up to $517 per year. And if you project our Twin Cities, we are also in the middle of doing our survey of our retail customers to find out what they pay. But we are still in the 35% to 40% lower than the national average.
Council member.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When that information does come forward, can you just email it to us or something so we don't have to wait until next year's budget presentation to find out what it is?
Madam Chair, members of the committee, I think what we would love to share that with everyone. So we will email, and then we'll probably put it on the website as well. But any of that is due any day. So, but preliminary shows we're still very competitive relative to the rest of the country. Actually cheaper than the rest of the country. The proposed changes to the industrial SAC, this is also not new. We shared this with you about a month ago as a proposal that we wanted to go out and research. So we're in the middle of researching with our customers for how that works. But this again is changing the nature of industrial SAC for industrial discharge. Instead of a one-time fee where you pay it all up front, this is a more like a rental model where you can spread it out. It's not rent to own though, so you will. The break-even fee is about 11 years. So if you think you're going to need that capacity for more than 11 years, then you should pay it up front, unless you don't have the capital available, in which case you should spread it out over time. So we are working with our top customers. We've been trying to figure out who are our top industrial customers and then who are the customers that add on local SAC and local WAC, because this will be hard for them to collect. So we're still working through the details. So stand by for that by the end of the year. But that is, again, you've seen that before. And then we do want to actually give a little update to changes to commercial SAC. These are from the task force recommendations. You've seen these many, many times. The gross square feet, no SAC due at remodel, and also the change in the grandparent date. I do want to give you an update, though. So these changes did go into effect on July 1st. We're very excited. This was, I want to thank the SAC team because during the trial period for those 6 months, they did double determinations on every single determination that came in. So what they did was that if it was in one of the the reclassified categories, they would do a determination the new way and a determination the old way. And they did that for two reasons. One was to track across the entire system. Are we losing SAC dollars because of the change, or are we increasing our SAC dollars? And we're happy to report there was no material impact to SAC revenue. So SAC the old way versus SAC the new way across the system was mostly the same. And then we also wanted to check to make sure that SAC for an individual user, the old way, would be relatively equivalent to SAC the new way. So what you didn't want was a restaurant that would get charged 10 SAC the old way and 28 SAC the new way. And so they were doing that to find those, if there were any crazies that way, would we need to tweak the criterion for that category. We did not find those outliers, but what we do want to do is continue to monitor the data and see if we're not going to do dual determinations anymore, but we do want to see if there's anything that looks afoot where we need to go back and reanalyze those criteria. So fundamentally, the great news here is it's gone into effect as of July 1st. After massive training efforts by the SAC staff and massive evaluations, and there is minimal SAC revenue impact, which then supports that we continue to keep our historical rate the same. The concern could be that if you're changing the rules and that jeopardizes SAC revenue, it would have to increase the rates. Based on what we've seen, we will not need to increase the rates for quite a while, particularly if the robust development continues. So we are flat again for the 5th year in a row with no SAC increase. And that's driven by, how do we do that? Well, it's driven by the recovery of the region. As you can see, 2017, kind of a bin buster year, 22,500 units, about a 25% increase over 2016, mostly driven by apartments, but also some healthy growth in commercial. So far, year to date, we're seeing our determination volume is similar. Our units are down a little bit. But I think when you're riding a plus 25% year, your units down 3 to 4%, I don't see a problem. We should be well within our SAC goals for our reserve, which again, we are projecting at this rate to be at about 82.4 million. You can see the green line there is what our council policy minimum balance is, which is 1 year of SAC payments. So by 2018, that's going to be right around 40 million. And for those who are concerned that that's a lot to have in reserve, I would direct your attention to 2008 to 2011. All it takes is one bad recession. That money gets chewed up very quickly. So we feel comfortable about the SAC reserve. So the proposed action then is that the Metropolitan Council adopt wastewater rates and charges outlined on page 1 of the business item to be effective January 1, 2019. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ned. Questions, comments?
Move approval?
We have no questions or comments.
Second.
Well done. We'll hear it again tomorrow. We have a motion
And a second.
and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Ned. That was very efficient. And thank you for the good news. It's nice to have good news.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Next item, I guess you're going to take charge of too. It's item 2018-200. And it's the closure of the 2016-2017 Sewer Availability Charge Task Force. That was a big task force.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I'm still Ned Smith, and I'm still the Director of MCS Finance and Revenue. Um, and this will not go same week, so this we're going to let this flow through the normal process. So you'll see this again on August 8th. Probably not. I can't remember if we're presenting or not, but I do just want to officially close the task force. It's frightening that it's 2018 already and we're looking at this as 2016, 2017 was the task force. But we did want to wait until the trial was over. If anything absolutely outlandish happened in that trial, we would probably want to bring the task force back together again and talk through how do we want to deal with this. However, the results of the trial were uneventful, and so we do feel it's best now to close the task force. The 4 recommendations, as you remember, one was to continue the outdoor seating policy as is, do not exempt outdoor seating. The initial recommendation was simplify criteria to 40 seats per SAC. However, the new criteria in item 3 got rid of counting seats, and it just uses gross square feet. But what that did, because there aren't typically kitchens or bathrooms or stairs or fixtures outside, it essentially doubled the amount of free seats that are available outside. So it is, we used to have 19 free seats, assuming nothing else was happening inside. Your first 19 seats outside were free. That number is now 39 roughly, because we're not counting seats anymore. But if you're using an approximation, 39 is a good rough approximation of the number of seats. So that's quite a large patio that will not be charged if you're not doing any change to the footprint indoors. That's the other interesting thing. So people would remodel their restaurant, change the number of seats that were inside, and that would create 1.2 SAC due, which would round down to 1, but then you added 0.5 outside, and now you're at 1.7, and that rounds to 2. So there will be a lot less indoor happening, because unless you're changing the footprint of the building and you already were a restaurant, there'll be no SAC due. So we should have more instances of free outdoor seating. Second, we want to continue the current residential rate for manufactured homes, monitoring flow studies and encouraging grants. So flow studies is to make sure the criteria is correct. If a manufactured home does in data prove to generate less flow than a standard home, then we certainly want to grant that reduction in criteria. But we need data for that, and that's a little hard to find. So we're going to continue to work to find that data from manufactured homes, and of course encourage grants, particularly partnering with our community development group to get grants to help manufactured home parks convert over to our system. But the biggest one, revising your SAC determination process to utilize gross square feet usage for certain SAC criteria, and then adjust the grandparent credit from January 1, 1973 to January 1 of 2009, which puts us more in line with the data practices of our customer communities. So you've seen these many times. They were approved by council on March 21st, and again, they went into effect on July 1st. A quick look at our Thrive Lens stewardship. We consider SAC to be an excellent tool to maintain our system, to keep a robust capital program that keeps it functioning. And we also see stewardship in terms of our SAC dollars from our customers. We want to make sure we are putting those SAC dollars to the best use and that we're collecting them in the best way possible. Prosperity SAC encourages prosperity in the region, because SAC ensures us that we have capacity for growth wherever it is to occur within the region. In terms of Thrive principles, collaboration, again, my favorite story about the SAC task force is that the best idea was theirs, not mine. Using gross square feet came from a task force member, not us. So I think it's wonderful that when you collaborate and you ask what people think is the solution, you get ones that are better than you thought of. And then accountability, which was making sure that we are connecting with our customers to be transparent and accountable for how we collect SAC dollars, and making sure that our rules really are determined by our customers, not so much by us. So the proposed action is that the Metropolitan Council accept the report of the 2016-17 Task Force and discharge the task force and thank them for their work. And with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Ned. And I believe Councilmember Wolf was with this for how long, Wendy? For how many years have you been doing this?
Well, I've been working on SAC task forces and work groups and such ever since I came to the council in 2009. And, you try to make changes and just couldn't find, we made small changes, but couldn't find the big picture changes. And this group really came together. There was a little trust building at the beginning of are we just going through the motions here, or, and we kept telling, no, we really want to hear what you have to say. And so they told us what they thought, and we tried it out. And I think Patty Naumann's in the back there for her work, and Ed certainly worked very hard, and there was a whole bunch of ES staff that were at every single one of those meetings, and Kara was at the meetings. I mean, it was a group effort by a lot of people over a long period of time. If we need to do anything else with SEC, I want to invite all of those same people back because they really did a good job of chewing through all of the issues and working on this. And I'm really excited about the changes. I'm really glad that we get to stop this particular task force and take a break because that was a lot of work.
Well, I certainly appreciate your work and leadership, and you too, Cara, and Patty, of course. It is something to be proud of. Cara,
That's all true.
Kara.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Kara, sure.
Kara, yes. So you talked about there being like a study period where you were doing both of the determinations. Is there anything written that we can kind of see?
Yes.
If you could
Madam
email
Chair,
that would be
Madam Committee,
great.
yes, we can provide the results of the study period.
That would be fantastic. And I know some members of the task force will be interested in seeing that too. The other thing is I'm wondering if you've been able to see if you have a lot more time because you're not taking those phone calls from people who are challenging the determinations. You've been able to tell that yet?
So, Madam Chair, members of the committee, I personally have. My phone does not ring. I used to have my my timesheet would automatically generate, and I would always charge 7 hours to budget and 1 hour to SAC. And I need to go back now and change that to a half an hour per day because I don't spend an hour a day on SAC anymore. I do not get the same phone calls. We are still waiting. So, in terms of, so you would expect the backlog to go down. So right now it's usually around 10 to 13 days. I can tell you the SAC log has not gone down. However, it's summer. And so we have had somebody on vacation every single week. So to me, the fact that the SAC log has stayed the same with people on vacation means that when we are back and fully staffed, we should see that delay come down to 5 to 7 business days. So I do think, yes, I'm certainly getting less calls about SAC, and I think we're going to see more efficiency in our SAC production from the team.
Terrific.
And just the last point, if I assume generally people get a SAC determination like once in their life, but if there are people who kind of do this regularly, and if we can get any kind of feedback from them, testimonials that this is working, I'd love to hear that kind of feedback. Like we think it's great, but how is it actually being received by the people who are using it? So thank you.
Absolutely, we can look into that.
Other comments or questions? It's a lot of work and I appreciate it. We need a motion.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The report is approved, or acceptance of the report is accepted, whatever is the formal determination. Thank you, Ned, for
Thank you,
everything
Madam
you've
Chair.
done too. So we come to the information, and our Assistant General Manager is sitting in for Lisa. What have you got to tell us?
Oh, it's quite a bit, Madam Chair and members of the committee. Actually, not that much. It occurred to me, though, you probably aren't thanked enough as council members for how much time you put in. And it's come up at least twice tonight, and relevant to my topic, which is the One Water Summit. Took a lot of time. You spent your own time at that, many of you, or hearing about it. And so I think we're all here as staff grateful that you're so engaged and helping out with the task forces and many other things we ask. I was going to make a comment about what we always do is calculate our time. in our pay and then figure out what per hour that is.
Yeah,
Probably
no,
don't want to
that.
do that.
Don't.
Anyway, the One Water Summit was my topic. It was, by all reports, a good event. The Met Council was the local host. We were not the host. It's an event put on by the U.S. Water Alliance, and they pick a leading water area of the country to visit every year. It was in New Orleans last year, which had some water challenges that they were seeing some successes around with the Gulf and resilience. And then this year it was Minneapolis, and there were some cool stories they were able to tie together with the Mississippi being headwaters and the end of it. And then next year it'll be in Austin, and there's certainly water challenges there as well and successes. We told them, when you bring it to Minnesota, we're going to work to make it the best one ever. We heard that it was. In fact, they said, well, how many people do you think you can get? Last year's was about 600. They kind of got there. I said, brace yourself for at least 1,000, because we are all about water here. We love it. It's part of our state's identity. And so they shot for 800. They said, well, you're excited, but maybe, we need to be conservative. And we just about hit 1,000, actually. They had to enforce some pretty strict rules because they were over capacity and they were turning away people even to the last minute. And the attendance ultimately hit over 900 when the actual planned capacity was around 800. So hugely successful. Those national participants that came that are interested in seeing leading things and learning about all the practices and innovations around One Water and how it really supports our Thrive principles that we have that other communities may not have thought through. They were impressed. First, they saw and heard about our top performing, our world-class wastewater system, which we don't even think of as a problem because it's not. But many communities are struggling, and it's the biggest deal on their minds. $1 billion investments just to get it to not be a consent decree issue, and they're so jealous they can't even look us in the face. But then going beyond that, we were able to bring 200 Minnesotans to this event so that they could get together and listen to what each other think and what the leaders in the country are doing. And then for me, the favorite, and some of those at the council here, I know Councilmember Rummel was involved, was a tour, and I'll just pass this down in case some of you don't have it, a green infrastructure tour that was designed to showcase the really cool work at the local level by the City of Minneapolis, the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization. And I got to read the list because I'll miss. This tour promoted 6 innovative local projects, primarily in disadvantaged North Minneapolis. It showed cross-sector collaboration between the city council, and public works, housing, nonprofits, schools. We visited Edison, arts and cultural institutions, the parks, neighborhood associations, and the MWMO. And the infrastructure that's been built and what it does for the community, rather than a pump station to move stormwater, which was necessary, it's an amphitheater. You can't tell that it's a stormwater asset. It's a community asset, and there's art attached, and you can just see the pride people have living in this community that actually was ravaged by floodwaters, and they're much happier now because of this One Water approach where infrastructure can do more. So it was a hit of a event. There's a lot of energy, I think, now for some of the collaborations we've been thinking of and participating in. Councilmember Rummel just mentioned a meeting with Environmental Initiative, the Sustainable Growth Coalition, that had a great event. I've heard through the grapevine that there's a great increase in energy and participation in companies, nonprofits, the public sector, private sector, getting together to say, how can we all work together to do more to protect our water resources in our communities? So if that's all I've got, we're happy to be showcased like that. Also happy to be done. It was an effort, and happy that the region and the hard work of all the communities got as much credit as they did and deserve through this event. And I'm wondering, for those of you that were able to attend, more than one here, what did you think?
Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I got to tour the Shakopee Wacaton Sioux wastewater plant and their reuse piping system that they have for for some of it is from stormwater and some of it is from the water that comes out of their wastewater plant being used to irrigate the golf course and other uses within the reservation. But it was a really cool thing to see. Totally different from how our plants run, much smaller scale. But I got to see all of the steps and how it all comes together. And anything like they have to backwash the filters, but then that goes through that water from the backwashing goes through the system again, so that nothing is just gone. It's all reused in some way. So it was fun to see. And they have a big green roof on top of the hockey arena that they have for stormwater also.
Oh, be cool to see.
I thought the plenaries were very good. The first one where Lisa and NPR, no, not NPR, Knight Foundation, and I forget the other two. One from that north side, People's, I can't remember the name of his organization, and Pentair. So that was very good. And then I thought the plenary with American Public Radio. I was just, you're sitting there and watching somebody manage a crowd, and it was over 900 people, asking questions completely out of the blue. I thought the host did a really great job, and it was, I was at the summit, and people had heard, the sustainability workshop had heard our summit on the radio, and were wondering how they didn't get invited. So I would give a shout out to our staff. I thought Karen Jenkins and company that ran that tour, but the people that were out there registering people, directing people to the right room so that because it was a lot of rooms to go to. So our staff really did a good job. So it was very successful. Yeah. And on that happy note, we will see you in a couple weeks. No, we'll see you tomorrow.
Oh.
Because we've got to get
That's right.
we've got to get
Got to give
Sam's
Ned his numbers.
we've got to get Ned's thing through the council, right? Got to be there tomorrow. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting.